Hi everyone, so I'm going to be showing you how to start and finish row 8, which is the puff stitch row of the For the Love of Texture Afghan. It's a little bit tricky because you're changing color throughout, but I promise it's easy once you get the hang of it. Alright guys, so we've turned our work, so now we're going to start row 8. We're going to start with chain 1, and we're going to make a single crochet into the first stitch. We're going to make another single crochet in the second stitch, and into the third stitch we're going to make a partial single crochet. So we're going to stop here when we have 2 loops on our hook, and we are going to drop our white yarn, which is color D in the pattern. Now we're going to pick up our next color, so in the pattern this is color B. I'm going to pull that second color through those 2 loops on my hook, and that finishes my single crochet stitch, and you don't even notice the color changes. Alright, so now we are going to start our puff stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to make sure that the color that I just dropped, color D, is sort of hanging over top of that stitch, because I'm going to want to work over it so that I can kind of carry that white yarn throughout the pattern. Okay, so I'm gonna yarn over, insert my hook into that 4th stitch, gonna yarn over and draw up a loop, so I have 3 loops. I'm gonna do the same thing again, inserting my hook, yarn over and drawing up a loop. I'm going to do that once more. Okay, so this is my puff stitch. I have 7 loops on my hook. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull through those first 6 loops on my hook. Alright, so now I have 2 loops remaining. So now I'm going to grab my color D, white, and I'm going to complete the stitch. I'm going to pull it through those 2 remaining loops to finish that puff stitch and to change color. Alright, so this one is just kind of like our tail, so you can work over it if you'd like to, but you don't have to. The one that you really want to work over is the working strand of color B, okay, because we want to carry that through. So now I'm going to, with my white yarn, I'm going to single crochet in the next stitch. I'm going to do that 3 more times, so I should have a total of 4 single crochets. Okay, but when I get to that 4th single crochet, like right now, I'm not going to finish it, but instead I am going to grab my color D, and I'm going to change color. So I'm going to pull that yellow strand through the remaining 2 loops of the single crochet. There we go. And I always like to kind of pull it tight, and that closes the single crochet really nicely. So it's like a tight stitch. Alright guys, so making sure that the white yarn, which is color D, is sort of hanging over our stitch, I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, and I'm going to make a puff stitch. So I have 7 loops on my hook. I'm going to pull through the first 6 loops, and I'm going to drop that yellow yarn. I'm going to grab my white yarn and pull it through the remaining 2 loops on my hook to close the stitch and change color. Okay, now we are going to make sure that our yellow yarn is hanging over our stitch, and I'm going to make a single crochet in the next 4 stitches. Okay, I've arrived at my 4th single crochet stitch, and I'm going to drop my white yarn, and I'm going to change color to the yellow by pulling it through those 2 loops to close the stitch. I'm going to pull my white yarn, and I'm going to make a puff stitch into the next stitch. Alright, pull through the first 6 loops on your hook, and now I'm going to just keep that tight. Alright, now grab your white yarn, give it a little tug before you do. Pull it through those 2 loops on your hook to close the puff stitch. And now make 4 single crochets with your strand of white. Before you finish your 4th single crochet, you're going to change color by drawing through those 2 loops and pulling that white strand to close that stitch and make it tight. And remember guys, you always want to make sure that you have that that color that you're carrying, you want it to be over top of that stitch so that you work over it. Alright, into the next 4 stitches, we're going to make a single crochet. We're almost done the row. Okay, give that yellow yarn a tug just so that the back, it doesn't sort of like peek through and it's nice and tight. Pull through the remaining 2 loops on your hook to close that single crochet, and we're going to make a puff stitch. Okay guys, into the last, you should have either, I think you should have 3, but I think maybe I got my numbers mixed up. But there we go. So we've finished the row now. So you've effectively carried that yellow strand through the whole way, and look on the back. You've made these really pretty puff stitches. Okay, so we've turned our work, and now we can cut this yellow strand. And now we're just working with the white strand, so we haven't dropped it throughout our whole project. So we're going to start row 9 with a chain 1, and we're just going to single crochet in each stitch across, even these puff stitches.